Welcome to the Intercourse Show. I'm your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting show for you. We are now in the fourth week of the war. President Trump has recently made an announcement that this will continue and that he wants to finish the job, and that he is saying in the coming weeks there will be further escalations, I guess more attacks on Iran, and Iran is escalating their attacks on Israel and other Gulf states. So we are now just updating our viewers on the latest developments of the war. I am following a news publication based out of India called Vantage, and they have been, in my view, a really good source to refer to in terms of understanding what's going on. So without any further ado, I'm going to patch some of those updates in through them.
We've been covering the war daily on the show. You know the drill by now. It's been a month, more than a month actually, of strikes and counterstrikes. Every night, a new retaliation. It is now a full-blown cycle of action and reaction. So here are the major updates. First, Iran is making a massive claim. It says a US F-35 fighter jet has been shot down. However, US officials claim that it was an F-15E, not an F-35. Now, a standard F-15E is operated by 2 crew members. US media reports say a search and rescue operation is underway. Several videos show low-flying helicopters over Iranian skies. According to Iranian media, the pilot ejected safely, landed inside the country. Now, Iran has offered a bounty to find the pilot. None of these details have been independently verified yet, and there's no confirmation by the United States. If this turns out to be true, it could be a major blow for the American forces and a symbolic gain for Iran, because it directly challenges US military superiority over in the Gulf region. The Iranian onslaught continued. The targets? US-linked sites in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan. In Kuwait, a desalination plant was hit. The attack took place earlier today. The facility suffered material damage. Parts of the plant's infrastructure were impacted. Remember, Kuwait heavily depends on such desalination plants for its drinking water supplies.
The illegal attack by the Zionist regime's forces on Kuwait's desalination facilities underscores the recklessness and villainy of the Zionist occupation regime.
Next, let's take a look at UAE. It's one of the hardest hit Gulf nations in this war. Today, their air defenses engaged history. As a result, 12 people were injured. Over in Dubai, Iran claimed it struck an Oracle data center. Hardest hit Gulf nations in this war. Today, their air defenses engaged 18 ballistic missiles, at least 4 cruise missiles, and 47 Iranian drones. This was confirmed by the country's defense ministry. As a result, 12 people were injured. Over in Dubai, Iran claimed it struck an Oracle data center. Dubai authorities have denied this. Remember, just days ago, the IRGC had issued a threat. It said US IT giants were on its hit list. Those included tech firms like Apple, Google, Meta, Intel, and Nvidia. Now, let's look at all the developments inside Iran. A strike targeted a bridge. It's the B1 suspension bridge and stands between Tehran and the city of Karaj. This is Iran's largest bridge. It stands 136 meters high and was built at a cost of $400 million. Trump has claimed responsibility for destroying it. He shared footage as well. Rising plumes of smoke can be seen in the video. At least 8 people were killed and 95 were injured in these strikes. Let me also read out what Trump posted on Truth Social. I'm quoting here. The biggest bridge in Iran comes tumbling down, never to be used again. He also warned one more thing, that more such strikes would follow. Then came Benjamin Netanyahu. He spoke about Israel's role in the war. Listen to what he had to say.
Together with our American friends, we continue to crush the terror regime in Iran. We are eliminating commanders, bombing bridges, bombing infrastructures. In recent days, the Air Force has destroyed 70% of Iran's steel production capacity. This is a tremendous achievement that deprives the Revolutionary Guards of both financial resources and the ability to produce many weapons. In full coordination between me and President Trump, between the IDF and the U.S. Army, we will continue to crush Iran. This regime is weaker than ever. Israel is stronger than ever.
Now, according to Netanyahu, Israel has decimated Iran's steel production capacity. At least 70% of it has been destroyed. Now, let's look at Lebanon. This is another major front of the war. It was drawn into the conflict on the 2nd of March. That's when the Iran-backed Hezbollah fired rockets at Israel. According to the Israeli army, more than 3,500 targets have been hit over the past month. The war is now in its 35th day. Reportedly, over 3,000 people have been killed in Iran. Over 1,300 people have died in Lebanon. A total of 19 civilian lives have been lost in Israel. The human cost is beyond numbers. Whether the world can pull back from the edge remains unclear. Now, Iran doesn't have a lethal air force, nor does it have a powerful navy. What it does have is a massive missile arsenal. Missiles that can fly all over West Asia and beyond. And the Americans know this. Since the war started, Donald Trump has repeatedly talked about Iran's missiles. Each time he gave the same assessment, that the missile arsenal has been totally destroyed.
Their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Their missile capability is down to about 10%, maybe less. We knocked out most of their missiles. That's why you see missile attacks, but they're sputtering, and destroy all of their crazy nuclear weapons and missiles and drones that they're building.
There's just one tiny problem with that, though. He's wrong. Look at what US intelligence is saying. Roughly half of all Iranian missile launchers are intact. Same with drones. US intelligence says Iran retains 50% of its drone capabilities. This raises two questions. Number one, why are we hearing different assessments? Trump says the missiles have been destroyed, but US intel says around half of them are still intact. But US intel says around half of them are still intact. Meanwhile, the Israelis are saying something else. They claim 75% of the launchers have been neutralized. The remaining 25% are still active. So which assessment do you trust? That's the first question. Question number two, why is it so hard to destroy Iran's missiles and launchers? This is the question I will focus on tonight. First of all, how do you identify these launchers? Some sites were already under US and Israeli surveillance. These were known to the military before the war started. So those were destroyed in the first waves. After that, it became a game of cat and mouse. Each missile launch generates a special signature. This signature can be picked up by satellites and radars. Once it is picked up, the US and Israel rush to destroy the launcher. A number of them have been destroyed in this manner. Take a look. Now, despite such strikes, Iran retains half of all launchers. How? Because of four factors. One, size, both the size of the country and the size of the arsenal. Iran entered this war with nearly 3,000 missiles of all kinds. That's the largest arsenal in West Asia. More missiles, harder to obliterate. Equally important is the size of the country then. Iran's area is 1.6 million square kilometers. That's roughly half the size of India. So it's extremely difficult to surveil and track this entire area. The launchers could be anywhere. Factor number two, where the missiles and launchers are stored. A number of them are mobile. They're loaded on trucks and driven around. The idea here is quite simple. A fixed launching site can be a sitting duck for airstrikes, but a moving target is harder to track and harder to hit. Plus, Iran has extensive underground facilities. Again, geography has blessed them. Iran's mountains serve as natural bunkers and tunnels. You may have seen pictures of their so-called missile cities. They have dozens of missiles and launchers hidden underground, meaning they're not as vulnerable to airstrikes. Iran has also been deploying more solid fuel missiles like the Sejil and the Fatah. Why is that important? A liquid fuel missile has to be refueled before launch, but a solid fuel missile is always ready. You can store these missiles with the fuel inside them. Again, this is a crucial point to avoid detection. While a liquid fuel missile needs logistical support for refueling, the solid fuel ones do not. Which brings us to factor number three, a decentralized command. Iran's missile commanders have surprising amounts of autonomy. They don't wait for orders from Tehran. This keeps the missiles and launchers nimble. Commanders are free to take calls when attacked. They can also move around their assets without orders from above. Basically, there are fewer battlefield handicaps. And now to the final factor, technology and know-how. Iran is still producing around 40 missiles per month. Their scientists and engineers have the knowledge and the experience. Those are two things you cannot bomb away. You can destroy the factories, you can destroy the launchers, but you cannot destroy what's inside the minds of Iranians. So is it all hopeless for Americans? Well, the United States is also adapting. The Americans are now using heavy bombers over Iran to pierce through bunkers in missile cities. We've also seen them trying to bomb the entrances to these facilities. If you can't destroy them, deny them. Despite all these tactics, success isn't guaranteed. Experts say you would need ground soldiers and engineers to verify the state of missile launchers. Plus, blocking entrances is only temporary relief. It's not like the Iranians don't have bulldozers. So as of now, the United States has not completed its objective of destroying Iran's missiles. And indications are they won't be able to, not unless they escalate significantly. Now, every war reaches a point where the fighting continues, but the questions change. Not about who is winning, but how does it end? Right now, this war has reached that point because for all sides involved, the calculations are shifting from how long they can fight to what terms they can live with. For Iran, this is no longer just about the war. It's about what comes after. This war is about survival for Tehran. The regime has taken heavy hits. Several of its top leaders have been killed. Infrastructure has been damaged. Thousands have lost their lives. And yet, the system is still standing. For Iran, that itself is a statement. Because the original aim of this war was to weaken Tehran. And by now we know that has not fully happened. So now Iran is trying to turn that survival into leverage. And that is where its position on peace becomes important. What exactly does Iran want? You see, Tehran is not talking about a simple ceasefire. It's talking about a settlement. And its demands are specific. Number one, it wants reparations from the United States and Israel, payment for the damage caused by the war, which in the first place, Tehran did not start. Number two, Iran wants all sanctions removed, not eased, not suspended, but completely removed. Number three, Iran wants security guarantees, assurances that it will not be attacked again. Number four, Tehran wants a say over the Strait of Hormuz, a waterway it is currently using as leverage. In fact, Iran has made this clear. The strait will not fully reopen until a broader deal is reached. So for Iran, ending the war is not just about stopping the fighting. It is about resetting the terms entirely. But this also creates a decision point. What does Tehran do with this leverage? Continue the war or lock in a deal while it still has the advantage? Because prolonging this conflict comes at a cost. More damage, more lives lost, and more instability, which is why temporary ceasefire. But a larger trade-off. This includes limiting Iran's nuclear program in exchange for full sanctions relief and a non-aggression pact where both sides commit to not attacking each other again. But here's the real complication. Not everyone in Iran thinks the same way. Hardline factions want to hold the line and push for more concessions, raise the cost for the United States. But the political leadership is more calculated. It says any deal must guarantee the security and the interests of the Iranian people.
We possess the necessary will to end this conflict, provided that essential conditions are met, especially the guarantees required to prevent repetition of the aggression.
Now, this is both a condition and a message. Iran is open to a deal, but only on its own terms. Now, compare that with what Donald Trump wants. Washington has proposed a broad framework. This includes a ceasefire and negotiations, but its expectations are different. The US wants Iran to scale back its nuclear program, its missile capabilities, as well as its regional influence. And what does Iran get in return? Washington has offered sanctions relief.
We will see where things lead, and if we can convince Iran that this is the inflection point with no good alternatives for them, other than more death and destruction. We have strong signs that this is a possibility, and if a deal happens, it will be great for the country of Iran, for the entire region, and the world at large.
But for Iran, this is not an equal exchange. It sees this as giving up strategic leverage without guaranteed security, and that is the core problem. It's not just a military standoff, it's a trust deficit. Iran does not trust the United States. We've spoken about this on the show before. Every time Tehran has gone to the negotiating table since last year, it has been attacked in the middle of talks.
Iran pursued negotiations, reached an agreement, and fulfilled all its commitments. The decision to withdraw from that agreement, escalate toward confrontation, and launch 2 acts of aggression in the midst of negotiations were destructive choices made by the US government, choices that served the delusions of a foreign aggressor.
On the other hand, even the United States does not trust Iran, especially over its long-term nuclear intentions. So both sides are talking about peace, but neither side believes the other side. And that is why the gap remains. Hence, there is still no clear end in sight. This brings us to the question, what does Iran do from here? It can continue this war and build more pressure, or it can use this moment to negotiate an exit, a deal that lifts sanctions, secures its position, and stabilizes its economy. The logic for a deal exists. The will, however, is less certain. And the longer Iran waits, the faster it fades. We don't know who's winning the war on the ground, but online, oh, it's not even close. Like Gen Z would say, Iran is absolutely cooking. It is roasting Donald Trump, mocking America's military capabilities, offering history lessons. And if that wasn't enough, it is even dropping a financial lesson or two. Our next report tells you how Iran is winning the parallel meme war.
Iran, the country that's supposedly being bombed into submission by Donald Trump's America, has opened a second front in this war, not with missiles or drones, but with memes. And here's the uncomfortable part for Washington. It's gaining traction. Iranian embassies around the world have basically logged into X and chosen violence. We're talking full savage mode. There's one image of a limping F-35. Another one shows Iranian missiles roasting an F-35 like it's a kebab at a Tehran street stall. And this is all happening right after Iran claimed it shot down an F-35. And it's not just memes. Some of it is basically a full-blown history class. Donald Trump says he wants to bomb Iran back to the Stone Age. And Tehran's response? Well, let's find Trump's history teacher.
Typical railway station scene in Iran is a reminder that many races are fighting.
Because here's the thing, Iran is out there reminding everyone that Persian civilization was already thriving when most of the world was still figuring out that fire isn't a toy. You can't send someone back to the Stone Age when they've got a head start of a few thousand years. And then, because, why stop there, they started taking shots at Trump officials too. Even people like FBI Chief Kash Patel aren't safe. At this point, Iran's social media isn't a government account, it's a roast show with a history degree. And if memes and roasts were not enough, there's some financial advice too. It started with a Trump Truth Social post. He said Iran and the US are having very good and productive conversations. Markets rallied, oil prices dropped, and then Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Ghalibaf called it out on X, terming it as fake news. He said no negotiations were taking place. But Ghalibaf did not stop at that. He posted actual market advice on his official parliamentary account. He told investors, if they pump it, short it. If they dump it, go long. So the Speaker of Iran's parliament turned financial advisor, offering hot takes. That's also on X. And this has been Iran's strategy all along. Iran isn't just talking to its own people. In fact, many of them don't even have stable internet right now. They're talking to Americans, to Western audiences. All their content is in English. All their jokes are culturally targeted. Their goal is not just to fight the US, but to mess with how the US sees the war. And Iran doesn't stop there. They're going full Gen Z warfare. We're talking AI-generated Lego-style war videos, rap tracks calling Trump a puppet, memes mixing geopolitics with pop culture. Why Lego? Well, because it disarms you. It makes war look shareable. And there's a group behind it. Explosive News Lego videos have taken over the internet. They posted their first video last year when the US bombed Iran's nuclear facilities. This time around, they're producing more and more such videos. Some reports say they're connected to the Iranian regime. The group maintains it's absolutely neutral. That doesn't change the fact that they've gone absolutely viral. And that's the point. So what are we looking at here? This is not your traditional war propaganda. It's not posters or speeches. These are memes and cleverly written posts. Because Iran has clearly understood the assignment in 2026. You don't just win a war with missiles and the military. In the 21st century, you often win them with memes as well. And right now, Iran is definitely winning that war, at least.
One year ago, Donald Trump declared a trade war on the world. He called it Liberation Day and imposed tariffs on more than 90 countries, a baseline tax of 10%, and a much higher duty on others. He said America would win again. Factories would return, prices would fall, and that the United States would call the shots.
Starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that. We used to think about it a lot. We didn't think about it for many decades, and you see what's happened. For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating. And because we are being very kind, we're kind people, very kind.
How the time flies, right? This was 1 year ago, and today, 1 year later, the world is still dealing with its consequences, but not in the way Trump promised. The global economy has not reset. It has been rewired, quietly, deeply, permanently. Let's start with a significant shift. The United States and China, they are pulling apart. And this matters because for years their trade kept markets and prices stable. Now that system is breaking. Reports say trade between the two countries has fallen sharply. US imports from China are down by around 30%. Exports have also declined. And China's share in US imports has fallen below 10%. That is a level last seen decades ago. This is not a temporary dip. Companies are moving factories, supply chains are being redesigned, and countries like Vietnam and Mexico are stepping in. So the world is not deglobalizing, it's rerouting. But the story does not end there. The rest of the world is also adapting. This means America's allies are also adjusting. Look at countries like Canada and the UK. They are looking beyond the United States now. New trade deals are being signed and new markets are being explored because relying on one partner has become risky. And this shift is not limited to the West. It is happening across major economies. Even New Delhi has taken a similar approach. 1 year on, it has diversified. It has signed trade deals with several countries, as well as the European Union. At the same time, it has boosted domestic demand. But this shift is not just economic, it's also political. And this is where the impact deepens. Like I said, tariffs have strained relationships. Allies are less willing to fall in line. Trust has taken a hit, and protectionism is spreading. America's global influence is not what it used to be.
Canada and the United States have built a remarkable partnership in the economy, in security, and in rich cultural exchange. But Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
And this brings me to the next big impact, the one in the United States itself. This is where Trump's promises are falling apart. Tariffs were supposed to protect American consumers. Instead, they've made things more expensive. Companies have passed tariff costs on to consumers. Take a look at this report. It says US households paid $1,000 more for the same goods over the past year. $1,000 more. So clearly, consumers have borne the brunt of this tariff war.
Consumer prices are increasing with the tariff. The tariffs have been pushing consumer prices up, but not one for one. Consumers aren't usually the ones who directly pay the tariffs. The people who directly pay the tariffs are the importers themselves. Most of the evidence suggests that they're paying most of the tariff burden is falling on them, and they're passing some of that on to consumers, but not evenly.
But Trump thinks otherwise. He feels the economy has done really well, all thanks to tariffs, of course. Take a look.
Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs. My favorite word, tariffs, which for many decades have been used successfully by other countries against us, but not anymore. Companies know that if they build in America, there are no tariffs. And that's why they're coming home to the USA in record numbers. They're building factories and plants at levels we haven't seen, AI, automobiles. We're doing what nobody thought was even possible, not even remotely possible.
But that's classic Trump for you. But here's the reality check. 1 year on, the trade policy itself has taken a hit. In February, the US Supreme Court struck down key tariffs. It said that they were illegal. This was a major blow. It raised questions about the entire strategy and heralded the world into more uncertainty. But did that stop Donald Trump? Not really. Instead of rolling back, the White House quickly pushed new temporary tariffs, a global rate of 10%. This was later raised to 15%.
But other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. We have alternatives, great alternatives. Could be more money. We'll take in more money and we'll be a lot stronger for it. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We'll continue to do so.
So clearly, this policy is not going away. It's just changing shape, and Donald Trump is not backing down. He has announced fresh tariffs, this time targeting pharmaceutical companies. The duty is up to 100%, and it is imposed on some imported branded drugs. The message is clear. make in America or pay the price. Companies have been given a choice: move production to the United States and cut drug prices or face steep tariffs. If they do part of it, they pay a lower duty. If they do nothing, they face the full 100% rate.
Right. So when you get a chance to look through that executive order and the fact sheet associated with it, you will see that that is really focused on a lot of the deals we've made with countries and companies. It doesn't cover generics. It doesn't cover orphan drugs.
So what does all of this add up to? 1 year after Liberation Day, the world has not collapsed, but it has changed. Global trade is now more uncertain, more political, and in some ways more expensive. Supply chains are shifting, alliances are being tested, and costs are being passed on. And yet, despite all the setbacks, despite the court ruling, Donald Trump is still pushing ahead, which means this story is not over. The real question now is, how far will this go, and how much more will the world have to pay? You must have heard this by now. Donald Trump has fired his attorney general. Her name is Pam Bondi. She's out of the US administration. The president called her a great patriot, said Pam Bondi did a tremendous job. I'll leave you to decide what that was. But who will replace Pam Bondi? Todd Blanche. He's Trump's former personal lawyer. Now he'll be the attorney general. And what is the role of an attorney general? They are the government's top lawyer. They decide who gets investigated, charged, and prosecuted. They also run the Justice Department. That's America's main law enforcement system. It includes agencies like the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It handles major crime. It oversees national security and legal cases of the government. So Todd Blanche will be the person in charge of all of this. But we'll talk about something else. Pam Bondi is not the first one to exit. And from what it appears, she won't be the last. Remember Christine Noem? She was Trump's Secretary of Homeland Security. She was shown the door recently. She was executing Trump's immigration enforcement. She was fired in March. So different department, but the same story. So tonight I ask, who's next? Behind closed doors, another name is already floating. Look at this report. It talks about Tulsi Gabbard. That's the US Director of National Intelligence. Trump is reportedly unhappy with her. The reason? She didn't fully back his Iran narrative. What does that actually mean? Trump says Iran was an urgent and direct threat. That's the main reason he started this war. But Tulsi Gabbard didn't fully echo that. In her testimony, she avoided clearly saying Iran posed an imminent threat. She did not say that.
Of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False. This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
In simple terms, what Trump wanted was an emphatic yes. But he got a calculated, it's complicated. And do you know what the real problem is? Trump's current administration is stacked with absolute loyalists, the kind who rarely push back. I've discussed this. The kind that border on bootlicking. And if that's not enough to save you, then God knows what is. Pam Bondi defended Trump strongly. During congressional hearings, she backed him. She stood with him through controversies. She built cases against Trump's political rivals, like former FBI Director James Comey, and even New York Attorney General Letitia James. Under her, the Justice Department stopped being neutral. It focused less on independent law enforcement and more on Trump's battles. Remember the Epstein files? She handled the fallout. Bondi was at the center of it. And that probably did not go down well. Reports say Trump was frustrated over how she was handling it. So in this administration, if the problem doesn't go away, someone does. Take this moment. Trump recently took a swipe at Caroline Leavitt.
A person that gets 97% of bad stories, maybe Caroline's doing a poor job, I don't know. She's my Representative, you're doing a terrible job. Should we keep her? I think we'll keep her.
Well, she is the White House press secretary. Trump was ranting about the media. He said most of his coverage was negative, as high as 93 to 97%. He called newspapers dishonest, and then he turned to Caroline Leavitt, saying she's doing a terrible job and maybe she should be fired. And then he laughed it off. Of course, that was the joke. People in the room chuckled when he made those remarks. But with Trump, that's how it often starts. A complaint, a public jab, a joke, until one day it's not a joke anymore. If you look at this carefully, this will reveal a pattern. Start with Mike Waltz, fired in May. This was the first big exit of this term. He was the president's national security advisor, gone within weeks. Then there was Cameron Hilton, removed in May. This was the man heading disaster response. Susan Munaris, she was a top public health official. Next, Billy Long, ousted in August. He was the head of the tax agency. And then Greg Bovino. He was Trump's border patrol chief, a key face of immigration enforcement, gone after backlash. He pushed out in January this year, and it may not stop there. Latest reports suggest the list could grow further. Names like Kash Patel, the FBI director. There are discussions of him exiting the administration. This hasn't been confirmed yet. Let me clarify that. Nothing is final. We'll have to wait for the White House to confirm this. But it's not a far-fetched scenario. So in this administration, no position is too big. No one is too loyal. Everyone is replaceable. You may spend your time licking the boot, but the boot does not think twice before stepping on you.
Before we jump into the next story, I wanted to weigh in. I was actually shocked that Trump fired Pam Bondi because at some point she was like one of his personal attorneys. And I don't know a person who's probably been more loyal to him than her. But I do believe that there were some missteps on her part with regards to the handling of the Epstein files. She was making promises during the campaign saying that she would release certain files. And when she released the files, it was just stuff that was already out there in the public. And a lot of people, kind of came at her for that. There was some backlash. It kind of made her look bad, but now she was on the hook for saying she was going to do something that she didn't follow through on. And it only further drive the narrative around the Epstein files. And the Epstein files ended up resulting in a lot of Trump supporters defaulting from him, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, because of the Epstein files not properly being released, because it seems like they were slow walking the Epstein files. It resulted in her potentially resigning from Congress and becoming a Trump critic. And then this narrative built where a lot of his base was talking about this Epstein file, and he looked like the guy who was preventing it from coming out. So that built a lot of negative talk around Trump. Then he wanted to change the narrative because clearly, Donald Trump wants to talk about his accomplishments, not about things outside of his control. And it's just, he has not been effective at doing that. Secondly, Pam Bondi, as far as I understand, I heard was implemented in the Epstein files. I don't know if to what extent, but I saw something where it seemed as if she was also a figure within there. I don't know if that to be true. It was just a news article that I saw that came across. I'm not saying that that was the case. I'm not saying she was a part of that, but I did see some things, and you never know these days with the AI. There's all sorts of stuff that comes out. You don't know what's true, what's not. But so I'm not sort of breaking any news here by saying that she was, but it just seemed as if maybe there was some fallout. To me, I don't think that was a good fire. I think he should have kept her because she's been loyal to him and has pretty much stood by him, irrespective of the criticism that he might have been getting. She's always been a loyal soldier to him. So I feel like whenever you're starting to see high turnover, it's the beginning of the end for his administration. And when I say that, I mean, the people that this is slightly different. the first term, Trump was coming in and he was hiring people based on recommendation that other political pundits was telling him to make, right? Like he hired the Supreme Court judges, he nominated them based on suggestions and recommendations made by Mitch McConnell and other people. So, but then those decisions ended up getting him in the end because they voted against his major political agenda, which was the tariffs. They took the power away from him. So he got burned based on the fact that he trusted in some of his political pundits that he thought he was cool with to, make decisions and make hires. Now, a lot of these people have fallen out with Trump. Chris Christie, who recommended a lot of people to Trump, became one of Trump's biggest critics. Mitch McConnell, also a critic. So there's a ton of people who, were kind of playing politics in terms of their loyalty with Trump. So you saw that at present. Then you also have, in this particular term, he did things differently. He brought people that he thought were going to be more loyal to him, more consistent with him. And that's why you see guys like Kash Patel being hired. You see, because he was a Trump supporter. Dan Bongino, Trump supporter. So he was putting people in big names. Dr. Oz, Trump supporter. You know what I mean? So when you do that, Pete Hegseth, a guy who would speak positively about Trump, right? Now, Trump had an issue in the past with regards to certain generals undermining his directives. So I could understand why he would want brand new blood there, because he wants somebody who's going to be loyal to him and not going to undermine him, right? At the same time, when you have those people that you place there based on your calculated assessments of their loyalty, their capabilities, and then you start to see they're falling off, that becomes a problem. And what's happening, and I think Trump has compromised a little bit his presidency a bit, because he's now starting to listen to a lot of the never Trumpers more so than he's listening to some of the people that's been with him from day one. And I think that's now going to sway some of the decisions that he make. If you have a day one person and now a never Trumper who was always kind of against him, and now they're telling him, here's who we don't like, because those people had his ear at one point, and they're trying to get rid of all the people who could potentially talk him out of doing something they want him to do. What are they going to do? They're going to advise that he gets rid of her because she's a threat to them having total influence over him. That's my take. Whether that's true or not, that's what I'm assuming. I think there's a certain people in there that may be a threat to certain things. So you'll see Trump start to make some changes. That being said, you might see Tom Homan, the Homeland Security director, get let go too. 2 people died. That's his lane. Some of his guys got reprimanded and taken out. Kristi Noem was taken out. He reported to her. Right now he's there, and there's a possibility that that situation could result in him losing his position. So I think Trump doesn't like bad press. And anytime he's getting bad press, things that make him look bad, he's getting rid of whoever's, the culprit. Whoever's at it, he's getting rid of it. And you saw them refer to Caroline Leavitt. She's his press secretary. But the narrative is not going his way. And I think it's because Trump himself has allowed himself to make some decisions that doesn't align with his core brand. If you say you're an America First person and you don't want to start new wars, then you start new wars, you're going against your own brand. So now the people who voted for you on the basis of this guy's thinking about us first, he's not going to start no new wars. Now you're diverting money towards wars and not diverting money towards solving the problems the people that elected you into office wants solved. That's going to be a problem. So naturally, the bad press is going to come from that, because people are going to bring up the fact that you're not following through on some of the things you said. Right? Me, I want to see any president win, specifically him. That being said, I also believe that once you start compromising yourself, your values, your principles, and you're playing this double game, it comes with conditions. People don't like you just to like you. They like you based on certain conditions. If you are the way you presented yourself to be, authentic to that, they'll continue to like you. But if you show them something and they like that part that you showed them, and then you change up on them, they'll stop liking you. That's common sense. You know what I mean? So I think that's a lot of what's happening right now. I think there's the swamp, if you will, is starting to curate Trump's steps now. They're clearing out his loyal list, and they're putting in people that they can then control to get Trump on the same page always. So he's having one voice. He doesn't have conflicting voices. That's what I'm sensing, right? Because, all of a sudden Trump is adversarial with a Tucker Carlson. Why? That guy supported you. The guy's got a huge fan base and a major voice in the Republican Party, and he supported you. And because he's saying, don't go into a war, this is a trap, it's destined to fail, it's going to mess up your legacy, you become adversarial towards him and you say something critical about him. And then you go into the war with a bunch of people who never was for you from the very beginning. You're going to lose some support. People are going to look at that and say, oh, man, he's under a lot of pressure. And I don't believe being the president of the United States is an easy job by no stretch. I'm sure the amount of pressure that Trump is under, most of us cannot even begin to fathom. This isn't me throwing rocks at the guy. Obviously, there's going to be a break at some point. And I mentioned this in a prior recording. Trump is getting older, right? He's in his 80s or close to. And he, at some point, has to slow down. Mentally, he has to slow down. Physically, he has to slow down. When you made your whole life about fighting, of course, when you're young and you're energetic, the bounce back is different. You can fight for extended period of times. But I feel like when you're an older person, you don't have as much resistance. You don't have as much fight. And now you really do need a good support system to help you stay consistent with what you stand for. And I think there's the part of Trump where he knows he's made some mistakes here, but he's too proud to admit it. He doubles down. He takes a position of, I'm right. We're going to finish this. We're going to do this. He doubles down. And when he doubles down, it takes credibility away from him, because it doesn't seem authentic to what he actually believes. Now, that being said, people can grow and they can evolve. But I think this has been some of the things that's happening. You see a lot of his loyalists and people who's there with him starting to trickle off and fall off. And he has a part to play in that. But when you start losing your loyalists, the battle's yet to come for him. You got a midterms coming up. You got a very unpopular war that no one wants to be a part of, and it seems like it's escalating day by day. You got prices rising in the economy and gas. You got people losing jobs. Cisco it was Oracle. They just laid off 30,000 people because there's this big AI push of which Trump is a major spokesperson for. People are losing their jobs. You have costs going up. the dollar potentially could be in trouble because it's the petrol-backed dollar. And unfortunately, there's no petrol being sold due to this war. He got problems, okay? He's got problems going into this midterm. Even if people don't like the opposite side, at some point, when things get painful for them, when they go to the supermarket and some eggs is costing $9, $10, $12, $15, the loyalty is not likely to stick. And so you're giving your people, your critics, your enemies, an avenue to revitalize their party. Why? Right? To me, where he was going right was when he stuck on the script with America first, protecting our people, making sure that you create opportunities for jobs to be created in the country, making sure there's a fair playing field with other countries. Obviously, you want to be, friendly to other countries, but at the same time, you don't want to alienate other countries and give the perception that you're a bully and you're unfair in the ways that you handle things, because eventually there's some blowback as a result of that. And so all those things are factors that I think Trump had going for him in the earlier parts of the year. And now it's probably going to be a little tougher for him to recoup. It's not to say it's too late. It's possible, but I think he needs to get back to his core message. And I think he's drifting from it. That's my take. From what I'm seeing, how I'm seeing the news and the narrative play out, I think he's drifting from his original points of view.
And that's Trump for you. No one is safe from his wrath, not even his closest allies and advisors. But earlier this week, Trump's anger crossed a red line in decency, diplomacy, and decorum. Trump's been angry at France since the Iran war started. He feels President Macron isn't helping out. Fair enough, world leaders are free to criticize each other. But on Wednesday, Trump went a step further. He dragged President Macron's wife, Brigitte, into this conversation.
Then I call up France, Macron, whose wife treats him extremely badly. And he's still recovering from the right to the jaw. And I say, Emmanuel, we'd love to have some help in the Gulf, even though we're setting records and knocking out bad people and knocking out ballistic missiles. Would love to have some help. If you could you please send ships immediately? No. Cannot do that.
He says Brigitte treats the president badly. Is it true? No. Is it relevant? No. Was it necessary? Absolutely not. But does it reveal how petty and disrespectful Trump is? Yes. This isn't something new. Trump has a history of misogyny and sexism. He also has a history of targeting his rival's spouse.
I'm going to interject here. Now, Donald Trump is no saint, and I understand the bigger point that they're making about, maybe that was petty. But it's not inaccurate. There's footage of the French president's wife hitting him on camera. It went viral for a period. That's not exactly how you want a leader to be viewed as a battered spouse in his relationship. So there's accuracy there. Now, is Trump frustrated? Yes. Is he justly frustrated? Possibly, because a lot of times the United States get dragged into problems with the European leaders, and we suck it up and we go along, even if we don't necessarily agree with it. In this case, they don't agree with an action that Trump is taking with regards to attacking Iran. I get it. I don't agree with it either. But his point is the loyalty's not there when you don't agree with us, but the loyalty's there when we don't agree with you. We still support you. We still show up for you when we don't agree with you. And the loyalty's not there when you don't agree with us. And I think what Trump is doing, because these people never liked Donald Trump anyway. They like Obama. Obama's their cup of tea, right? They're not Trump fans. They deal with Trump because, you know, he's the leader of the new world. You have to deal with him. You have to figure out a way to be in talking terms with him. But personally, if Trump was not in power, if Trump didn't hold some high position, would these people just be friends and show up to birthday parties and just hang out with Donald Trump? My answer is, I think not. I don't think they would. I don't think they're his friend. I don't think they like how he does business. He knows that. And a lot of this little chippy stuff comes from the fact that at the core, they don't like each other. They deal with each other politically, but they don't like each other. That's very evident by how they treat each other. You know, people, when they're on camera, they're diplomatic, they do the handshakes, they do the pleasantries, but in reality, they're not friends. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not friends. They're not cool. Their personalities don't gel. Macron more aligns with Barack Obama. That's his cup of tea, right? That's the type of person they like. Starmer, Barack, those they were supporting these people when Trump was trying to run office again. They didn't want Trump back in office. They were clowning Trump when he was out of office and it was convenient for them to do it. So they're not fans of Trump. Is it petty that he did that? Yes, but does Trump really view these people as actual friends? No. So, I mean, I say that to just kind of put things in perspective. I know she's going to make her point, but I say that to put things in perspective.
Think back to his 2016 campaign. Trump made snide remarks about Senator Ted Cruz's wife. He also attacked Columba Bush, the wife of Jeb Bush. Apparently, this is Trump's idea of a sick burn, attacking someone's spouse. In this case, President Macron has hit back. He says the comments were neither elegant nor up to standard.
The remarks I have heard to which you refer are neither tactful nor up to standard, so I'm not going to respond to them. They do not merit a response.
That's charitable from Macron. Not elegant wasn't my first reaction. This controversy has triggered conversations around the world. Most of it is centered around Trump, around how petty and disrespectful he is. But I won't spend time discussing the obvious tonight. Instead, let's look at Brigitte Macron. This isn't the first time she's been attacked or targeted. Unfortunately, it's becoming a trend. In 2019, Macron was sparring with Brazil's then President Jair Bolsonaro. A Brazilian social media user claimed that Bolsonaro's wife was prettier than Macron's wife. He said that's why Macron was criticizing Bolsonaro. Instead of condemning this post, Bolsonaro endorsed it. He wrote, "Don't humiliate him. Ha ha, how funny." Well, I'd say almost as funny as losing an election, plotting a coup, and then being jailed for it. More recently, Brigitte has faced attacks from Candace Owens. She's a right-wing influencer on the internet. She claims Brigitte Macron was born a man. Owens has published long episodes on this fake claim. Her videos have raked up millions of views. But last year, the Macron said enough is enough. They filed a defamation case in the United States. They accused Owens of spreading falsehoods and encouraging bullying. And now the US president is jumping in. This suggests a moral bankruptcy in global diplomacy. Have you ever heard any other world leader criticize what Trump said? Have you heard them call out the US president? No, all of them are silent. And this isn't a one-off case. Michelle Obama, the wife of Barack Obama, has faced similar challenges. Far-right influencers claim she too was born a man. The question is, what do these incidents show? It's easy to dismiss this as Trumpian, but it's not. Trump is a symptom of the rot, not the cause. Wiser world leaders are treated as ornaments to analyze. What are they wearing? What charity are they supporting? Which designer have they picked? Did you see any of that with Douglas Emhoff? You're probably wondering, who on earth is Douglas Emhoff? I'm sure you know his wife, Kamala Harris. How many people were dissecting his choice of clothes or charitable projects? Compare that to Usha Vance, same role, different yardstick. The internet obsessed with her life. All of this adds up to the systemic bias, and the solution is clear. We need to overhaul how we look at women in public life, whether it's in positions of power or as companions to politicians. And by we, I mean everyone: the media, the internet, the whole society. Let's talk about the Great Wall of China, a grand fortification that has survived centuries of war. It has stood the test of time. Enter rogue tourists. They don't just visit these monolithic sites, they want their names etched into them. They have an itch to alter their facades. For pictures, from ancient walls to sacred sites, the story is same. People arrive with cameras and leave behind damage because for some, the trip is not enough. They want proof that they were there. If it's not on the gram, did it even happen? The question is no longer if tourists will cross the line. It's how far they're willing to go. Here's a report on what not to do at the world's most iconic sites.
At one of the world's oldest landmarks, a careless act has sparked outrage. Two tourists were caught carving into the Great Wall of China, a structure that has stood over 2,000 years. They scratched a message onto ancient bricks as if it was just another wall. A video of the act quickly went viral. Authorities stepped in. The tourists were detained. They were fined under strict heritage protection laws. Because this was not harmless graffiti, this was vandalism of a protected site. A site recognized globally for its history and value. Online backlash exploded. People who travel but leave behind damage. The anger was not just about this one act. It was about a pattern. From ancient ruins to temples, from monuments to museums, visitors are treating history like a personal canvas. And there's one glaring question that we want to ask. Why do some tourists forget where they are standing? The Great Wall is not just a tourist attraction. It's a symbol of endurance, built across dynasties, brick by brick, layer by layer. Every stone holds history. Every mark tells a story, and every scratch erases one. What took centuries to build can be damaged in seconds, and sometimes permanently. Travel is a privilege, not an excuse to leave your mark. And this is not just an isolated incident. This is a pattern. In August 2024 at Pompeii, a 37-year-old British tourist carved "My Law and a Date" into a wall inside the house of the Vestals. He later claimed he wanted to mark the visit with his daughters. Authorities tracked him down. He faced heavy fines under Italy's strict heritage laws. In June 2024, at the same site, a tourist from Kazakhstan scratched Ali into the ancient plaster of another historic house. The act came just as Italy increased penalties to curb such behavior. Officials called it uncivilized and a disgrace. Different tourists, but the same disregard.
I have to weigh in on this. People who would do something like this when you travel to another person's country and you are a tourist and you're viewing their natural sites, their artwork, their sculptures and different art pieces that are symbolic to their country. If you would do something like pour water on some ancient art that's been preserved so you could take a picture, you deserve to be jailed. Absolutely. There's no protection for that. What? That's like people who have no home training. Like nobody actually trained you as a child to understand when you go somewhere and you're at someone's place, you have to show respect to their place. If you go to someone's home and they don't want you wearing shoes in their home because they trying to keep a certain level of cleanliness, you respectfully take off your shoes to meet the courtesy that the person's expecting of you to be courteous to your host. If a country's hosting you and allowing you to come in and you're an observer of their art and you think it makes sense to pour water on a masterpiece that's been preserved for many years, come on, bro. You can't be serious. That's crazy. So to me, this is a lack of home training. People who grew up not really being corrected by their parents that would allow them to think that you can go to another foreign country and violate and disrespect people's place. Be like somebody graffitiing on the Washington Monument. Like, that's crazy. You can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not, it's decency tells you shouldn't do that. But the fact that these grown people don't know, it'd be a different thing if it was a kid. These are grown-ups doing this because they want to take pictures. This is crazy. Let's continue.
In July 2025, in the United States, at the Petroglyph National Monument, authorities were forced to close parts of a trail. Visitors had been scratching, stacking rocks, and defacing ancient carvings. Some of these petroglyphs date back thousands of years. In China, villagers once painted over 1400-year-old Buddhist statues. It was meant as a gesture of gratitude, but the bright, modern paint covered and damaged the original detailing. Good intention, but lasting loss. Across the world, from ancient cities to sacred shrines to prehistoric art, the story repeats. People arrive as tourists, but forget they are visitors to history, because once history is damaged, it cannot be rewritten.
Okay. That was the latest developments of today pertaining to the Iran war. If you are not connected to our channel, but you want to stay updated, feel free to like and subscribe and stay connected to our channel. We discuss a number of different topics: news, politics, religion, dating, sports. We just try to cover the whole gamut, things that people are interested in. But we also ask that, you stay connected and you weigh in. Let your voice be heard during these conversations and let us know what you think about the various stories that we choose to showcase. So thank you guys for joining me, and I wish you well until we meet again.